What did everyone get as a snack?
Nothing.
I didn't have one because I didn't want my children. This is the one downside of the kids being home. My older kids a little bit, but like I can't really go downstairs because if they see me, they accost me, and like I can't get out again.
You just have to starve all day, or do you keep snacks in your office?
I would be smart to bring snacks. That would be smart. But I don't. I just am hungry all day, and then I like sneak down at 3:00 and eat a million pretzels.
We don't have any food because it's a grocery day, so I have to go pick it up. Until then, no snacks.
We need some good summer snacks in our house. I was thinking that last night. I'm like, our snack cabinet's looking pretty weak.
You know, we try not to do because my 4-year-old and 2-year-old can't be trusted with snacks, so we don't, as you know, really do the snack. But for the babysitters, I like to have some. Michael and I are going on a big date tomorrow. He has tomorrow off for Juneteenth. Is it tomorrow or the next day?
19th
For
yeah, whenever that
Juneteenth,
is.
and we wanted to go do something because we're like, well, we have two babysitters that day, but we're like, I don't. Do you really want to just go out and like spend $150 on lunch? That's gonna like be mediocre. So our big date is we're going out to Costco.
I was just going to
Wow.
guess that.
Costco, and then we're gonna get a Costco pizza, and so it's very exciting. But we will end up with some good summer snacks, I'm sure.
That's awesome. I'm
I
happy
was
for you.
thinking that it was time to, because with everyone home and like lunch, it's just so much. And so I was thinking it might be time for a Costco run. But then it's like if you give a mouse a cookie or if you give a pig a donut, whatever it is, the overflow place is in our mudroom, which currently has all of Eleanor's stuff from school. It has like 3 rugs that I didn't want to get rid of. It has like, it just, and I don't have it in me to address that. But we should be going to Costco too.
We literally, so we made 5 rules, our summer break rules as a family. And one of them, specifically just for Finley, is you may have 3 meals and 2 snacks a day. And don't ask me how many meltdowns she has already had about this, about how she is so hungry and she's just going to die because she's so hungry. I mean, so dramatic.
You tell
And
her
she
to
still
drink
doesn't
a cup
listen.
of
She
water.
goes to bed every night crying that she's not hungry. I'm like, then eat your dinner. I don't know what else to tell you. We do this every night. So we're working on it.
Do you think she's going to win, or are you going to win?
Oh, I'm going to win. I am the most stubborn person that there is. She can cry all she wants. If you didn't eat your dinner, too tough shit.
Yeah.
Eventually you'll figure it out. And we're getting a little better because sometimes she'll like get up and I'll be like, Finley, remember yesterday when you were so upset? And then she'll come back and eat a little. So like we're making progress.
Yeah.
But she's a bored eater. Like when she's bored, she's like, I'm hungry. And I'm literally trying to teach her. I'm like, you're not really hungry. You're just feeling bored. You know, if you go play something for a little while, you'll be all right. And so we're getting there.
I feel this.
Yeah, I feel the same as an adult with the snacks.
Yeah,
It's Finley.
Yeah. I know because she is me. I also bored eat.
Welcome to Just for Moms. I'm Charlotte.
I'm Caitlin.
I'm Megan.
And I'm Kallie.
We are regular moms
Talking about regular stuff like
aging, parenthood,
work-life balance
And figuring out what's for dinner again.
A no judgment zone to talk, laugh,
and maybe cry.
About all the things women think about on a daily basis.
Well, my friends, we are here and we are back for episode 26. It is, just a lovely day in the neighborhood in New England, I believe, for all of us. And we're in summertime. We've just been talking about snacks and how our children could eat us out of house and home in 2 seconds. And I should have probably just said, like, our opening chat's going to be about snacks. But I have something more important that I would like to discuss. And that is, who was your childhood crush? And I don't mean somebody you went to elementary school with. Like in a movie, maybe you had a Teen Beat poster of him on your wall. Favorite actor, singer. I want to know.
Is this like when we were like little or like in high school?
I mean, it's whenever you want. I mean, okay, I'll start. My first crush that I vividly remember was Mouth in the Goonies, which was now
1990?
Yes.
Something
But what
like
was
that?
his name? Who was Mouth?
He's not the one I would choose. And he's sort of gone off the rails.
Oh,
a
he's
little.
nuts. How did I come to this so unprepared? He was just Mouth.
I'll look it
I can't
up.
think of
I'll
his
look
name.
it up.
Look it up. But he was my first. And then it moved on to Devon Sawa.
Corey Feldman.
Corey
Yes.
Feldman, yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Then I loved Devon Sawa and Casper. I loved him very much. Then as I got a little older, I liked Seth Green and Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
What's interesting is that I don't remember, like, the crushes that I remember, we weren't really allowed to watch TV. I mean, we did, but it was just very, very limited. And I'm realizing, so the crushes that I put were like River Phoenix, Ricky Schroeder, and whoever was the guy in Charles in Charge. And I must have been old enough to be babysitting, so these were like that Friday night lineup. But I don't remember. I mean, River Phoenix was movies, but I'm trying to think of movies that I saw as a middle schooler that I identified with. I mean, maybe it was Karate Kid, like Ralph Macchio. I don't remember having a crush on him, but it's like now I'm wondering what movies I watched when I was little.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a rhetorical question, but those were mine.
Megan, how about you?
I just remember having posters all up my bedroom of Donnie from New Kids on the Block.
Sure.
Okay. And I was just Googling, what were all those magazines? Oh, Teen,
Tiger
Bob.
Beat.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Tiger Beat.
Yes. I was just like trying to 17, YM.
17
Yes.
was my jam.
And I remember going to the grocery. I would only go to the grocery store with my mom just because I wanted to get like the new issue that was out. But I just remember having way too many posters up of him. I don't know why I found him cute because I don't really think he's that cute now. And then it switched over to Derek Jeter.
And never left.
And
Which never
I'm
stopped.
still Mrs. Megan Jeter. I mean, he just doesn't know it yet. And I walk around, I have shirts that say Mrs. Derek Jeter on them. And then when I was pregnant with Eva, I had one that said Derek was here and it pointed to my bum. And I went to the game and I remember Joe kind of being like, "You're really going to wear that?" And I'm like, "You know me. Of course I am."
Wow. I didn't realize that. Always thought that you just talked about him being your crush. Just like, I don't know. I didn't know it was
No.
that intense.
Yeah. No. And one time I remember I posted a reel and he wrote like LOL to it. I feel like it was when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. And I was like, it was like going to see my husband. You remember that audio, right? And I was like shaking and pointing it at him and I tagged him in it. And like, I don't know if it was him, but someone replied LOL. So
From his account, you mean?
yeah. Oh, I've
Yeah.
tagged him multiple times. Oh yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Stalker, but yeah.
I know. Meg's like, this
Minor.
one time I mailed him my hair.
And then I got a letter in the mail that said I wasn't allowed to talk to him anymore.
Yeah.
I'm actually
Maybe
not
it's-
allowed in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cease and desist.
Yeah.
I know, right?
But Kallie, did you have a crush when you were a preteen or no?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like whatever kids were like on Disney, like I'm trying to think. I feel like I went from like JTT to JT.
yes.
Yeah.
So Jonathan Taylor.
Oh,
Thomas,
yes.
Justin Timberlake. I feel like that was a whatever.
Yep.
I feel like Aaron Carter, wasn't he like doing all those Hillary Duff movies and they like sang
Mhm.
songs together?
That's
Yeah.
right.
I don't like now looking back, I'm like, did I have a crush on him or was it just like he was like the boy that I don't really remember, but I remember him as being one of the boy and he was on the cover of all of those magazines for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, all
Yes,
the boy
Michael
bands,
J. Fox was a little bit like that for me, maybe. Michael J. Fox, Michael J. Fox, and Jason Bateman. They were sort of the boys in a bunch of those shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember Freddie Prinze Jr. being one.
Yes.
Remember
Yeah.
him?
And Heath
Yeah.
Ledger.
And Heath Ledger. Yeah.
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 I remember all my friends were into Brad Pitt, but I was like, he's too old for us.
Yeah.
He didn't, no.
Yeah.
Didn't do it for you.
Not me.
No.
No. I mean, listen, guys, I liked Seth Green. He was just like really awkward looking ginger. And my cousins all told me I liked him because he had red hair like I did. And that I liked Devon Sawa because he had pale skin and Casper like I did. And I'm like, you guys are so mean to me. Clearly they didn't. I mean, I was also a little bit obsessed with Hanson for a while.
Oh, yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Bop.
They were cuties.
Mhm. Yeah.
Still kind of are.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Actually, no. Who is it that doesn't look that good? I think it's Zach
Well,
doesn't look as good as the other
They
two.
can't all be good.
But then did you all see how a bunch of the tabloid celebrity magazines recently closed? Like I think Us Weekly and In Touch are done.
Oh,
Oh.
because
Yeah.
nobody's picking
I
up a
know.
magazine
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
Which is
I saw a
sad.
post about that a few weeks ago and I was like, wow, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and now that there's social media, the paparazzi don't have quite the same power either.
No.
Yeah.
Well, okay, we can leave our youth and go into our present day mom fails. Does anybody have anything good?
I mean, mine's not amazing, but we had we had a bunch of people over the other day, and so I got some soda and some seltzer and some Gatorade, and there was a lot left over, and I made the mistake of just kind of leaving it there, and it's of course the kids have just glommed and finished it all. So I should have just put it away and saved it for the next party, but they've just mainlined it all, and that's just gone, which is
That's one of my
annoying.
biggest pet peeves. Somebody finds my stash of something that I'm saving. Yeah.
And you only know, they're certainly not asking. You only
No.
know because you'll go out to the driveway and there's like a lone can of whatever, like under the basketball net. And then you'll go to the basement and there's like a lone
Same
can
thing.
next to
Yep.
the, Xbox controller. And I'm sure it's the
Mhm.
same kid, but
Yeah.
it's annoying.
Callie, how about you?
So my 4-year-old has these, I think they're called nano bugs. They're called hex box. I don't know. They're these little, they look like tiny little bugs and you turn them on, they vibrate. And we make mazes with our magnetiles. I think they have kits, but we just use magnet and she loves them. But eventually they just like die and I have not figured out how to replace them. And once a year we buy a few more. We were cleaning out the basement and she found one. She's like, I really want to play with, she calls them the Beatles. I really want to play with my Beatles. And I was like, okay, well, I'm finishing in the basement. I'll play with you later. And then later, it was Father's Day too. And then later I was helping my son ride his bike and the day just got away from us. And then at bedtime, she realized that I hadn't, and she had asked me multiple times, and my mom was visiting, and I guess she had asked my mom a few times, and we both didn't know that we both kind of had been blowing her off. And right before bed, she like remembered that we hadn't done the Beatle. And I felt so bad because I did. I totally blew her off about it and like kept just being like, I'll do it later. I'll do it later. So it's fine. We fixed it. We ended up, the lone one she found had like barely any battery. And I was like, what if we buy a new set for the year? Because, we usually buy, so all is well in the world. But I felt a lot of mom guilt about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Megan, how about you?
I signed up my kids for a camp next week and I'm so late. So I got a late fee for both of them with the sign up. It's just annoying. I like knew to sign it up. I knew there was a late fee. It's just another way for them to make money, but it's just annoying. So that's
Yeah.
my mom fails, paying the late camp fee enrollment. Whatever.
I can't think of anything because I can't at all.
That's her mom fail.
That's
She
my
can't
mom
think of
fail.
anything.
Oh no, here we go. I got one. This is gonna be, if I don't find this, I'm gonna just spontaneously combust. So Annabelle, my oldest, has grown out of everything. She's basically like has to come borrow my clothes because just nothing fits. She's just so tall. And I was being so proactive, bought her a bathing suit for her 5th grade outing in time for that. She got it, and then found a 2-piece bathing suit that I believed was modest enough that she could wear. That was great. Found a second top to go with those bottoms. Well, these bottoms are gone. They are sucked into the black hole of my house. I cannot find them anywhere. We need them for vacation because the poor thing is like nothing that fits her. And it's my fault because I probably put them somewhere safe.
I love when I do that.
Yeah.
And
They'll turn up.
Yeah.
They'll turn up eventually.
in September.
Yeah.
Right. When it's
when
too
we
late.
don't need them anymore. So yeah, that's my mom fail. This is okay. I love a good segue. This is going to segue into our topic today, which is about age gaps between our children. So my oldest has no one to borrow clothes from except for her mother, where my middle child and my youngest, if we need something, a pair of shoes, anything, because I save everything, I could always go find it. But yeah, that's an issue when you have kids that are really far apart, right? But so today we're going to talk about sibling age gaps, and this is a topic that we did on our old show, and a lot of people can relate because if you don't have any children and you're planning having children, you kind of think about, well, how far apart do I want them to be? And I was researching, I was like, I bet there's some statistics over this, and actually, Google says 2 year spacing between kids is the most normal, common, this is what we're going to do when we have them. And then you could get really technical and break it down by months that a lot of couples look at. But what I found that was very interesting is research on hunter-gatherer societies suggests that the natural interbirth interval is actually about 4 years. They say, since all humans lived as hunter-gatherers for 95% of our evolutionary history, it's reasonable to assume that this was the case for all humans. A key question is, why did our ancestors have children much farther apart, 4 years apart? And it's largely came down to breastfeeding, diet, and lifestyle. So in traditional societies, mothers breastfed on demand for about 3 years, which naturally suppressed their ovulation. So then they couldn't get pregnant until they were done with that, and then they had kids. So I thought that was really interesting because to me, 4 years is it's a pretty significant gap. And that was more normal than for years than it is now.
I also wonder if it was like they were starting earlier. Like, do you ever feel like a lot of us, if we start in our 30s and we want 2 or 3, like we might want them closer so that we can have them before a certain age? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, if you Google this though, it's everybody says it's a little less than 2 years to 30 something months is the most common. But I thought, it would be cool for us to go around, talk about the age gaps between our children, and then just maybe some of the dynamics and all that jazz.
So between my first and my second is just over 2 years. So 2 years, 3 months. Between my second and my third is 2 years, 3 months. And then the third and fourth was it was less than a year and a half. I think it was 16 or 17 months. So fairly similar age gaps. I mean, obviously I did the 2 under 2 with the last ones. And we kind of planned for them to be close. We wanted initially like the first 2 to be even closer, but it just took longer to get pregnant between them than we thought. So I don't really know. I mean, I don't know anything different. I don't know the really wide age gaps. And we're just starting to enter the stage where my third, I feel like in the last 6 months, my third has sort of entered the chat in the sense as far as like the real sibling dynamics, in the sense that sometimes number 1 and 3 will play, or 2 and 3 will play. And so that has definitely changed the dynamics of how everyone plays, mostly in a good way so far, in the sense that like now my 6-year-old and 4-year-old, who were because they were 2 years apart, they were just peas in a pod, best buds. Of course, they bickered, and they do that as siblings do, but they were close enough that they could play all the same games, and they really enjoyed being together. But now I'm finding that my 6-year-old has sort of aged out of some of the stuff that my 4-year-old has. And so it's been really nice that she has somebody that she can kind of fall back onto to do some of that kind of younger play with, which has been really nice.
Charlotte, now you have the most children, but I feel like go ahead and describe your age gaps.
My kids are all about 16, 17, 18 months apart. I mean, for most of them, I was 9 months postpartum, and that was about when I stopped breastfeeding. A lot of them had breast milk through a year because I just had like such a stash. But for me, that, I was pumping in the back quarters of a public school in New York City, and for many, many reasons, once they started eating and cruising around, we just stopped. And so, that was certainly a big part of it, not breastfeeding. But we started having kids when I was older. I mean, I think I had my first when I was maybe 34 or so. And so we sort of knew that if we wanted to have more, it was sort of like TikTok. Thankfully we didn't have trouble getting pregnant, which is why they are close together. But I also was really lucky with my actual pregnancy, because I think it's sort of twofold. I mean, I think it's you're getting pregnant again because of how postpartum has gone and how you're feeling about life. And I don't know. I mean, I'm sure people do plan to have children 3 years apart for whatever reason, but like you're not going to, you sort of have to listen to your body and see what the reality is. And so, for us, because I had had sort of easy pregnancies and pretty quick labors, I didn't have any like trauma associated with any of this. So it was easy enough to jump right back into pregnancy. So I think at one point I may have had 5 under 5. I can't do the math. It was pretty
Wow.
close to that. But because they were so close, they were just this little pack. The oldest, there was a point when she sort of would graduate from doing some of the really little play. But it was to your point, Kallie, everyone has always been able to find someone who's interested in what they want to do. I have found that the dynamics with our kids are much more shaped by now, at least, certainly with gender and interests. When they were little, they would just kind of do their own thing and they would pick up a pal and do whatever. And they all get along pretty well. None of them are obsessed with each other or like choose to hang out socially, but they're all very happy to be together. And I was I was talking to my mom about this the other day. I don't remember, knock on wood, any time when my kids were just red-faced screaming at each other. And I have very visceral memories of me like engaging with my siblings in that way. Just so mad. And we definitely fought a lot. My siblings and I are 3 years apart. So maybe there's just something to that gap. Maybe it was how we were parented, maybe it was personality.
So statistics do actually, what I was reading is that when children are closer together, there was less fighting in a recent
interesting.
study.
Huh. I mean, I guess it makes sense. There's
Yeah.
You're closer to being a peer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, I mean, like the bickering we get with our kids, it's all like, like playground bickering. It's none of it. And again, my kids are young. Other things are going to enter the sphere, as they get into adolescence. But it's all just, stuff that would happen at school with like a schoolmate kind of bickering.
Well, and so Megan, your 3 children, what are their age gaps and what's their dynamic?
So we had the 2 girls, and they were 2.5 years apart exactly, both on the 18th, one May, one October. And I felt like for me with both pregnancies, like I wasn't able to plan anything. Like I remember having friends that were like, I'm going to get pregnant. My baby's going to be born in May so I could have the summer. And they just did it. And I was like, that's awesome. That never happened with me. I felt like all my pregnancies took a lot longer to get pregnant than I had thought, 9 months, 6 months, over a year. And so I was just grateful to be pregnant whenever I got pregnant. And yeah, I had the 2 girls, and my husband thought we were done. He was like, I only want to have 2. Everything's so expensive. No, like he's the finance person. And then Gianna turned 2, and I was like, I thought I was done. And I was like, I want one more. And he was like, no. And I'm like, no, I want one more. And he's like, well, we have to wait a whole year. We're not, like, financially, I'm not ready to have another kid. So then Gianna turned 3, and then, I was ready to have another one, and it was an agreement. Joe jokes and it's like, you trapped me. I'm like, you knew what was going on, buddy. Okay. Yeah. And then I had Nico, and the age gap between Nico and so Nico's my youngest and Ava's my oldest presently right now is 7 years. And I feel like they get along great and they help each other. She's like, a little mother when I'm not around. She helped with diapers during that stage. Now she can babysit him. But the sisters, the 2.5 year age gap, they were buddies when they were younger, but over the past 2-3 years, they definitely butt heads. Makeup, clothes. I've heard, I never had a sister, that they will grow out of this, fingers crossed. I do teach them and say to them, and I don't really care, that's your sister, you love her, tell her you love her, and they just look at me and they're not saying it, but I'm just going to keep saying it. And yeah, I'm like, when they bicker and like last night they were fighting over an eyelash curler, you know? It's like, so again, that's kind of where we're at. And this middle school, high school years with the girls, I know Charlotte has that in her house. It sounds like they get along great, but right now they don't really like each other. But again, I'm like, when there's friends over of Ava's or Gianna's, we can all hang out together. Everyone's fun and they get along great. I just don't know if my oldest thinks she's too cool for her sister, you know?
Yeah. I mean,
that's kind of
it's
where we're
normal.
at. Yeah.
It's totally normal. I've mentioned it before. I have an 11-year-old and I have an 8-year-old who's about to be 9. So they're 2 years, 8 months apart, which my sister and I are 2 years, 8 months apart. And when I see my two older girls, how they act with each other, it's a lot of how my sister and I acted with each other. And now we're best friends. So I have hope. But we were done with 2 children, like just said, okay, that's it. We're happy. They're expensive. But the pandemic had us home watching the kids grow up. And so we wanted to try for a third. And it took us a while. We didn't know. I was really sick from COVID. And the doctors thought maybe that something had happened. Like, I had no problem getting pregnant before, but why can't we get pregnant now? So just as I had started doing all these tests at a fertility clinic, then I got pregnant with my third. And so their age differences are, there's 8 years between my oldest and my youngest and 5 years between my middle and my youngest. And it's a lot. They're 3 girls, and everyone I've been talking to lately that has, 2 girls and a boy or 2 boys and a girl says it's a lot easier. And I think there's probably a million different reasons why it's so hard for us, but typical third child who's a girl and looking up to her 2 big sisters, she just wants to be like them and bossy like them. My oldest wants to mother the youngest, and my oldest wants to mother the middle child, and then the middle child wants to mother everyone. And it's just like a shit show a lot of days. But I will say that I'm happy that we had a third with this age gap, because it is very, very helpful to have someone who's older. And when I look at like Kallie or Charlotte and I imagine what it was like, what it is like for you, Kallie, and what it was like for you, Charlotte, if that was all 3 of my girls that close in age, I'm like, maybe they would have gotten along like their children if we kept them like that, because Annabelle and Eiley really did have a great relationship until we put the third one in the bunch. But we're also entering preteen years, so who really knows? I know a lot of people ask about age gaps. That's one of the topics people bring up when we say, hey, what do you guys want to talk about? Because people are trying to plan things out. But as we said, it doesn't always go as planned, and I think that's something important, and that your family is just going to end up being whatever your family is going to be,
Yeah. I think it's Captain Obvious that there's pros and cons, but I have 5 kids close together means that there's sort of this wonderfully energetic, cohesive pack. They're not quite as disparate as I think your experience is. And there's something to that. It just, my muscle memory is, I never lose it, because by the time one is outgrowing something, the next one is right there. But, I also look back and I worry that my oldest daughter didn't get a chance to really be a toddler. And I think about her and I'm like, my God, she was 3 years old with like 2 younger siblings. And it's, we've talked about this in a past episode. I certainly was conscious of not, giving her parental roles, but I also was aware that a 3-year-old, I wanted them to be independent, and giving her jobs and projects and letting her be independent. I think those are life skills, and I'm really happy for that. And part of having a large family, and we've talked about this too, is setting up our home with like there has to be this foundation of independence because I just cannot physically do everything, nor do I want to do everything. And so that's sort of the premise on which our big family is built, is that like you can get yourself dressed. I don't care what you're wearing. Like go get a snack. I've selected what you can eat. Go get, there's a lot of moments like that I think they are obviously better for it because I think they're good independent kids, but I do worry that they lost out on just the magic of having two parents to herself for 3 years or whatever. So it's not one or the other. It's if and or but it's I don't know. I feel for someone who is trying to plan because I'd say it's sort of a
Yeah.
fool's
No.
errand, but there are commonalities to the different makeup, so I get it.
Do you all notice that you parent your children differently? And I don't just mean, just in terms of discipline, the way that you speak to them. Do you find, because I know that this is the case for me, there's certain things that my oldest is probably doing right now that I might make my middle child wait a little bit longer to do, just because that's how things have happened. And I know that's something, when I was reading about this topic, that a lot of people think about and consider. And a tip that everyone keeps giving me that has older children with a larger age gap is don't let your third just get away with everything because you're tired, or just don't let your youngest. And that is something my husband and I think about a lot, because it is, you have that younger one and then you have an 11-year-old and you're just kind of like, I don't care anymore because I don't want to deal with this. But at the end of the day, I can't let everything slide, because then we're creating a monster.
And I think it's inevitable that that's going to happen, and I guess it's just trying to right size it and make sense of, like, I don't know, when my oldest was 7, we never had her out until like 10 o'clock at night. And my youngest, we'll all be at a friend's house and having a great time. And we're like, oh, guys, sorry, it's 11:30. Let's go home. Like for me, it's not habitual and he's going to be fine.
Yeah.
But like, none of them are getting a phone until they turn 13, or so it's like we think about it too. It's like, how do you navigate the natural sort of slippery slope that happens just as a parent in general? You realize that the hill that you were dying on with your first 2 kids, turns out that hill isn't as important with your, and that's, I don't know, like
Yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah. For me, it's less about the age gap and it's more about the amount of children that has changed maybe how I parent. What we use, and we've talked about this before, we use a lot in our houses. We have certain ages where things can happen, like you mentioned with the phone, Charlotte. So like that's kind of how we have like certain things that like at this age, that's when you can do whatever. And it kind of just works as is like everyone just currently at least accepts it as like a family whatever. Like you don't get to do you start swim lessons when you're 3. So and before you're 3, you don't have to do so we kind of just have these like whatever that we use, because it can get tricky where if you don't kind of have these hard and fast that you're like, obviously the first just got more things in some ways, because even if they only had you alone for a year, it was still, they got so much more in some ways. And then sometimes I feel guilty about my third and my fourth because I'm like, they didn't get the same, like we were talking in the last episode about arts and crafts. Like I used to do so much more involved arts and crafts when I only had 2 kids versus when I had 4. But then I think about it on the flip side, this last winter, when it snowed, I realized like I've never taken my 6-year-old to like the golf course to go sledding when it snows, which partially is because we haven't been getting good snow here in Connecticut. But also it's like for the past 3 winters, I've had like a newborn. I'm like, what am I going to do? And so then I feel guilty. I'm like, is he getting deprived of certain experiences where I have a friend who only has 1 kid and their kid knows how to ski and has done this and blah, blah, blah. And so, you can cut it any which way. And there's, like you said, there's going to be pros and cons either way. And what I always come back to is, we always knew we wanted 4. I'm so happy for the relationship that my kids have, even though I'm sure it will ebb and flow. And I'm sure that they will have times where, maybe they like each other more than they don't. But we focus so heavily on like our family and our time as a family and like their relationship as siblings that like, that's what I come back to, is like, I try to tell myself that that's what will make it worth it.
Yeah. No. You're right, Kallie. I feel like in our house, because it was 2 girls and then a boy, where if that third was a girl, it might be different in our house. And he is like the prince of the house and kind of runs the show. And I know he's the love. I always tell him, you're the love of my life, because he loves me. He likes me like no one else does, like even this morning at the bus stop, he like holds my hand still. He comes home from school and he's like, how, I don't, he asked me how my day is. Like no one else really cares, And he's the last too. And I know I'm not having any more children. So it's like in the morning, he comes in and gives me a morning hug where, my middle, I feel like she sometimes likes me. And like you were saying, Kallie, with the whole dynamic as a family is I try to make time for the five of us to do things, even if it's doing things at home, watching a movie, all sitting on the couch together, or actually having family dinner, which we had as growing up. But now today, with everyone's schedules, I don't know when we would all eat it together, but I do try, or going out to dinner on the weekends, which doesn't happen very often either. And then family vacations. I feel like February break and April break, even if it's a weekend thing or going to my parents, the summertime, taking that trip together, because that's when I feel like the bond and creating those memories together that they remember. And they do remember stuff at home too. You can have just as much fun at home, but I feel like now that they're getting older is making sure that we make that time, even if they don't want to be with me. I don't really care. It's you're going to spend tonight with me and we're going to watch a movie and you're not going to your friend's house. And I really have made a point. I feel like over the past 2 or 3 years now that our oldest is in high school, where she's like, oh, I'm not doing that with you guys. And I'm like, no, you are. Yes, this is what we're doing. And, you can go see your friends later on, because the friends, I remember going through that too. But family at the end of the day, like, is that your bond? This is your home. We're all under this roof together. And, you're stuck with me.
It's fun to watch, and I think this happens with every family. My siblings, I think I said, were 3 years apart, and so we sort of caught up with each other and started hanging out probably in our early 20s, is when we really could sort of just be pals, and it's fun to watch. My kids are just beginning. There's sort of an alchemy that happens. The older three have phones, and so watching them, like, text each other, or I was away last weekend for a night and I took my oldest daughter and then my youngest daughter. So, number 1 and number 4. And they are really similar in a lot of ways. And I just hadn't seen that combo. And, I was with my mother and she was like, it's so sweet to watch them interact because they both love theater. And the youngest one just is like worshiping her older sister in a way that she's just very enamored with her, but she's old enough to have a conversation. So it's fun to watch the dynamics as they grow out of that, like, parallel play or let's do blocks together. And that's going to happen regardless of how old your kids are. It may happen at different times based on how far apart they are. But that is something we're beginning to see a little bit of it. Meg, you probably see it a little bit too. Caitlin, yours might be a little young still, but it's
I'm definitely, there's a difference, as Arbor is more of a human and not just so much as like a wrecking ball, like to see how she interacts with Eiley versus interacts with Annabelle. She does look up to both of them in different ways, and how she copies them and mimics them and wants to impress them, and then she'll be naughty and do something to try to get their attention in the wrong way.
Sure.
But I think my favorite moments is when it's the three of them doing something, whatever it is. I mean, just earlier today, all screaming and running to go look at the window at a chipmunk, like all of them together, equally excited. And, one of the questions I was thinking about for this episode is, what are some things that people don't talk about when it comes to age gaps? And I think you guys have all kind of touched on that. Is just the stuff that can happen that you certain children don't get to do that other siblings got to because they were firstborn or lastborn or whatever. And then also just seeing the dynamics of your kids at different stages and how they get along. But is there anything else that you could think of?
I think that an interesting thing I've noticed as we go through like the sibling dynamics is the same as it is when you talk about just a single child, is that like our sibling dynamics go through seasons. So like we've certainly had seasons, like currently I have a 9-month-old, right, and a 2-year-old, and that can be a hard dynamic because when a 9-month-old, they're old enough to pull up, they're old enough to knock over toys, and the 2-year-old is not old enough to understand that you can't just push somebody, and I remember going through that dynamic with my first and my second, and remember when we hit that, and I remember being like, what did I do? Like this is like what a horrible, like I can't leave them alone for a second. But it's just what I found is just like your child goes through seasons, and you're going to go through like the hard seasons, and it's going to pass. Like the sibling dynamic seasons sort of go through too. So if I was going to leave somebody with like a tidbit, I think that's what I would leave them with, because I remember when we had our second, like when she was first born, it was fine. Miles was like barely 2 and it was no big deal. But once she kind of got mobile, I remember that being a really hard. And I remember being like, oh my God, this is going to be horrible forever, having like 2 kids and trying to like manage that.
Yeah, I was really glad. I remember that too. I was really glad to have just a modicum of understanding of child psychology, because it was really reassuring for me to be like, okay, right, this is not some reaction to me and the baby. This is just developmentally where they're at. My middle child was probably about the age gap you're describing when Arthur was born, and Martha would just go up to him and just like poke him in the eyes.
Yep.
And she would look at you like, look what I just learned. And there was no ill intent. And it would have been very easy for me to be like, oh my God, she's like, there's the newborn and she hates the newborn and she's mad at me because there's maybe there was a little bit of that. Mostly, I think she was like, what will happen? Like, it was like a little machine that she was like, I poke and he cries and like, look what I
There's also zero impulse control, right? Until they're like 5 or something. So they might get mad and push. Like I watch my even 4-year-old still do this and then immediately be like, uh-oh, what did I, because there's not enough in their brain to be like, wait a second, don't do that. They're just like, don't touch my toy, push you over. And so, I mean, that has definitely been.
Yeah. Arbor last night just bit Eiley for the first time really hard. And she's struggling because, she's 3.5. She understands, everyone kind of has their own toys to play with, but at the same time, they're going, don't touch this one. This one's mine. I mean, they set up a whole American Girl doll house last night in the playroom, all 3 of them, super cute. But then Annabelle had her own area of the house and Eiley had hers. And Arbor's like, well, you guys gave me like this broken crib. And I was like, I'm watching this thinking like my 3-year-olds, like they ripped me off. They have all the good furniture. And Eiley went to take something back and Arbor just bit her hand. And me and Britt, I walked in the kitchen and I was like, I don't want to laugh, but that was hilarious. She just straight up bit her. And then Eiley's screaming that we don't punish her and we don't care. And I'm like, she doesn't, she's 3.
Yeah.
You took a toy away from her. She doesn't understand. Now, if you bit Annabelle, that's different. You're 8. You don't bite.
That's big in our house that we don't punish. Usually it's Arthur. You don't get mad at him. You're letting him get away with it.
Yeah.
Which was the hardest? I feel like maybe we talked about this before. I know we need to move on, but did you have a noticeable, what was the hardest one for me, it was going from 1 to 2 and our second is still maybe my most challenging. So it may just be a personality thing, but I also just remember I barely felt like I had the rhythm down with 1. And I was very sort of precious about everything. And then all of a sudden there's a whole other one that I had to figure out. And it, time goes fast. You figure it out. You figure it out quick. But I definitely remember that was hard for me going from 1 to 2.
Yeah, same. I remember that same thing, Charlotte. I was like, what did I do? And I remember my mom being like, this is your life. Like, you just got to deal with, this is how it's going to be. Because it's so much chaos. Right? Yeah. 1 was like manageable and then 2, and then you add the 3rd and you're like, well, this is fine. It's already a shit show. What's 1 more going to do? The only thing that stressed me out so much, but I've obviously learned to deal with it, is going from 2 to 3 and all the laundry. Like, I don't know how Charlotte and Kallie deal with like 5 and 4 laundry, but my house, even with the 3, with the laundry, it was just like, am I ever caught up? And that shouldn't have stressed me out, but I'm like, and I remember, like, same thing. And my mom was like, it is what it is. Like, what are you going to not have kids because of the laundry? I'm like, no, but it's just the laundry is overwhelming.
Yeah, I don't know.
I remember hearing something about laundry once, and I'm not going to remember the quote. I wish I'd written down because it was so beautiful. But this one was basically like, we look at laundry as something that's supposed to be done.
Yes.
Like, we're supposed to finish the laundry. And she was like, you're always wearing clothes. And I wish, again, I could remember how she said it, but she was like, it's not something that ever finishes. It's just something that you're always doing. You're always like, and like that kind of helps you like lift off that feeling of like, there should always be dirty clothes in the hamper because you're always wearing clothes. But we kind of have this like weird mentality that like there should always be empty hampers and it should always be finished.
Yeah, or put away. Like that feeling of it being put away. It's like,
That
but you don't
happen.
get that a lot.
No,
right?
it doesn't happen in my house. 2 to 3 was, I mean, I'm not okay. But I had a
0 to
huge
1
gap.
was me, so yeah.
You said how many?
0 to 1 was
0
my
to
hardest.
1.
Yeah. Hands down the hardest for me. Yeah.
And I think, it is just different for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're just going to go straight into our peaks and pits of the week. I have no idea what I even was going to mention. Does anyone have a great peak or just a really crappy pit?
I have a peak. It's not great, but I was going to say that I had a campaign that involved me like cleaning up my outdoor space, my porch and my patio. And so I filmed all that I was gone over the weekend, but I filmed it recently. And so my backyard is looking great for about an hour until all the weeds come back, blah, blah, blah. But one of the things that I bought to help style this campaign was a maidenhair fern. Do you know what those are?
No.
It's a type of
I'm Googling
fern
it.
that is so like wispy and delicate and sort of ethereal that it's lovely. You see it in a lot of design, but because it's so delicate and wispy, it's a dick. And if you don't take care of it, dies so quickly. And so I got it I think I got it at Terrain or something. And I always am like, do you have any tips for me? And their tips were like, don't let it dry out. So this one is sitting on the kitchen counter, so I can't forget. Like you forget about it for an hour and it's dead.
Yeah.
So this is now on my kitchen. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but that's how it feels.
It's high maintenance.
Yeah. Like my other plants, I'll be like, when did I last water them? And it's been like a month and they're fine because I found the right plants and whatever. So this I've kept alive for like 3 weeks.
Okay.
That's
a
good.
start.
I'm literally I'm Googling to see what it looks like. And every other photo is like a text overlay that's like how to keep it alive.
Yes.
Like the finicky maidenhair, how to make sure it doesn't die. It's so funny.
Oh, wow. Megan, how about you?
I have a peak. So Nico is 8 and he accomplished something over the weekend. I'm proud of, but I also feel bad it took so long. It's, he's the third child, kind of age gaps here, is he can ride his bike by himself now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Did he have one?
And it makes me giggle because I feel like Ava, our firstborn, probably learned to ride a bike when she was like 4, with no training wheels by herself. And then, it's me and Joe spending the time with him to teach him, to give him that confidence, to keep doing it. We don't have, where we live, because we're close to town, we don't keep our bikes here. We keep them at my parents'. And that's another thing. But he was like, Mom, I finally know how to ride a bike without training wheels. And I was like, that is amazing. And I'm like, again, hopefully, no one thinks I'm a bad parent because he's 8, but
no,
Eiley
just learned sometime in the last year and she's the same age. She just was too scared.
Yeah.
She was terrified.
Yeah. And they have a parade coming up for 4th of July where we visit my parents. And every year I feel bad. He had to go on a scooter, and all the, and now he'll be on and I was like, Nico, now for the Yankee Doodle parade, you'll be able to decorate your bike. And he's like, yeah.
Well, I've been sitting here trying to think if I had a peak or a pit. And I guess my peak is, I don't know if you guys have trouble finding a bathing suit in the summer, Like just so I've worn the same bathing suit since it's like stretched out from when I was pregnant with Arbor, and I found 2 bathing suits this year that I really really like, and I get to wear them to the beach, and I'm excited not to wear the same maternity suit that I've been wearing for 3 years.
What's the brand you ended up finding?
2 different ones, Bowden, the brand Bowden, and
nice.
then Beach Riot.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that.
I was furious. A couple years ago, I needed some new suits, and everyone was raving about, I think it's Somersault, and
Yeah.
their campaign was based on like all the different body types and all the different women. And I was like, this is it. They didn't fit my butt. It was that same, and I was like, I don't want to be fishing it out of my butt the whole time.
Yeah.
And I guess I had high expectations. I mean, the suits were lovely and they were very well made, but I was like, I need,
Just
and the only
covers your
suits,
crack.
the only ones I found have been at like TJ Maxx or Marshalls, and they're some legit brand, but they're not. I don't know. Bowden I've heard is good too.
Full coverage on my butt. The cups are not like, I did get a 2-piece, but the cups are not like,
yes.
You know how they get like crunchy or they're weird. They fit, and I'm very thrilled.
I'm not into the cheeky bottoms either,
No.
especially with the kids, and then you're like pulling it out of your ass. No,
But you have to have like no hips. Like I have a wide butt. Like I don't understand. My butt cheeks come out like this. So every bathing suit's going to show some kind of cheek, and the Bowden one the Beach Riot one does not. That one's a little. There's some cheeks.
that's okay.
The Bowden is covered.
Brandon will like the cheeky one.
Kallie, how about you? Cheek or a bit?
So, well, my peak was the same as Megan's peak, was that Miles learned how to ride his bike this weekend on Father's Day. Which it's funny because mine was the opposite because he was the first. We were like always too busy with babies that we never did it. And it's not like it's obviously way too late for him. He's only 6.5, but he really wanted to master it last year. And like we moved and it was so hot and I was really pregnant. And so like I kind of had felt like I dropped the ball on him because he probably could have done it last year. And so it was funny. We took out the bikes on Father's Day. We had we don't have like a paved driveway, so there's nowhere that he could learn to. It was really hard, but we ended up getting a patio. And I was like, he can start practicing on the patio. This is great. I pulled out the bike. I was like, Miles, this week we're going to do it. You're going to learn how to ride the bike. Like he got on it and just rode it because like he was obviously ready last year, but like I was just too pregnant to do it. So that was, I'm happy for him that he's done that. And we also did the balance bike things. It worked out pretty well for us. Yeah. Finley wants nothing to do with them currently. We have like the little 2-year-old balance bike that they're supposed to use first that has like I think 2 wheels in the front and 1 in the back or something. And she like wants to ride that around. It's like for the 2-year-old. So
well, do you have the sit and scoot? It like goes from a scooter to a balance bike.
It's like, I mean, it's kind of like that.
We have that, and Arbor's just too tall for it, and she's just like pedaling on it and like scraping her knees as she goes. And I'm like, maybe she needs a real bike.
I feel like Finley's gonna ride her bike now, like this coming weekend.
She might.
Personality.
Well, she's really into the scooter. She loves the scooter, so I think she's happy to scoot around. She tried the balance. I will give her credit. She tried the balance bike for a while, and she got a little. The trick with the balance bike I have found teaching them is it's about them learning how to stay balanced. You need to find a spot with a slight, like decline, and they can, that way they don't have to worry as much about going. They can just start to practice the whatever. Like that's kind of the key to it. So she gave it a good effort, but we're very flat right where we are. So she'll get there.
Yeah. 2 bike riders. Woo-hoo.
It's exciting.
Yeah. On that note,
exciting.
I hope you guys all have a great day, a great week. Leave us a review. I don't know what else I'm supposed to say. Hope everyone's having good weather. Megan's cheering.
Still doing our cheer.
Yep. One of these.
I'll let it go.
I know. All right, bye.
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 The things I planned, the things I would say now.